In the secret headquarters of the Coalition of Planets, Thetis calls upon the Assembly and talks with the several alien leaders that are part of the Coalition of Planets. He reveals that Nolan was a Viltrumite that had betrayed the Viltrum Empire. He also reveals that the weapons they receive have been known to hurt Viltrumites. Before he can finish, Anissa charges herself through their headquarters with Craig standing watch and other Viltrumite warships deploying enslaved soldiers. We switch to Nolan and Oliver having some quality father-son moments. Nolan hears something at the camp, where Invincible is still recovering from his injuries. He rushes over and is shocked when he sees Invincible out of his coma. A fearful Mark asks if Nolan killed Conquest, but Nolan happily says that he killed him. Mark is relieved that he killed Conquest but doesn't know he did it, citing that Conquest was stronger than him. Mark is angry as he promised he wouldn't kill. Nolan tells him that it's war and that it's time for the trio to get back into the fight. Allan walks in on Zack cheating on his girlfriend, but he doesn't care that much. He needs him to be ready to go to Taliskria as it is being attacked. While the Viltrumite warships lay waste to Taliskria, Thragg talks to the skull of Argal, the killed emperor of the Viltrum. He tells the skull that Thetis was the one that killed him. Thetis lifts the building that he was crushed upon. He rushes to who he believes is the traitor, the one who lowered the planet's shields. The alien points to the real traitor and he charges toward him, ready to kill him. Craig stops him, much to the alien's happiness. Craig grabs Thetis's leg and pulls him back, but Allan and Zack finally join the fight and go straight for Craig. While Allan fights Craig, Zack attempts to rescue Thetis. Anissa grabs him, attempting to crush him. Thetis attacks her and frees Zack. Craig calls Allan foolish while Allan argues that their empire is done for. Thetis tells Zack to regroup as their forces can't hold back a full attack. But now the big guns have arrived. Anissa grabs the duo, but Nolan frees them, while Mark and Oliver destroy the enslaved aliens and their weapons so they can't fight. The duo charged into the Viltrumite warship and split it in two. Thragg notices Argal grabs the skull and jumps off the ship. Thetis and Zack see the ship destroyed. They take half of it and throw it back into space. An enraged Thragg goes to fight them but decides that he can't risk it, much to the soldiers' confusion. Anissa and Craig also break free of the fight and regroup with Thragg to escape. Without the Viltrum warriors, the soldiers give up. The alien that betrayed the coalition gets a full blast to the head. They demand to know where the Viltrumites are. While Taliskria is being reconstructed, Thetis gives a speech to his allies, stating that the worlds under the Viltrum Empire have freed themselves and joined the Coalition of Planets. Thetis asks if the team is ready to take the fight to them. Nolan tells Mark that after the fight he will stay on Taliskria. Mark admires the way they have been able to replicate his costume. Nolan talks about how the cities are almost fixed in only 3 days. The Seven leave the ship so they can get as close to the planet without being detected. Circling the plane is a ring of dead Viltrum warriors, a sort of tomb so they are never forgotten. While heading to the planet, Thetis is ambushed by a warrior, demanding to know why Thetis came back to Viltrum. But she is quickly smacked with a mace. Battle Beast doesn't like that she is talking so much. With that, they know they have been spotted and the fight will quickly follow. Thragg himself is leading the charge. Thetis tells them to move from opponent to opponent, but he knows that the only hope is Space Racer. And there he is. Just in time, Space Racer arrives with Ragnars, who are under mind control devices. Space Racer fires his gun, easily killing a Viltrumite, and releases the Ragnar. One manages to kill 2 of them. Shocked, Thragg orders not to engage them as Space will take care of them. Anissa rushes to Nolan and says that Nolan revealing their weakness won't stop them. A Viltrumite attempts to suffocate Zack, but Allan easily decapitates him. Another rushes towards Allan and he easily impales him, nothing that some of them are very easy to kill. Mark and Oliver fight off Viltrumites. Oliver lands a nice low blow. Thragg goes for Space Racer as right now he is the biggest threat. Mark rushes to Thragg, but his punches have no effect on him. Thragg easily smacks him away. Oliver sees this and rushes to him, but Oliver is no match for Thragg as he tears off his arm and breaks his jaw effortlessly, much to Nolan's horror. Anissa grabs Nolan as he rushes for Thragg, but Mark gets to him and pummels him, though the latter only suffers a nosebleed. Thragg mocks Mark, stating that he is in over his head and that even Conquest fears him. Mark reveals that he killed Conquest, and much to Anissa and Craig's surprise, as he was a formidable warrior. Nolan takes on Anissa and other Viltrumites, allowing Thetis to use the time to come up with a plan. He tells Space Racer to come to him and takes Mark with him. Battle Beast uses Thula as a weapon and swings her around, just enjoying the battle. Thetis tells Space Racer to fire his gun at Viltrum to make an opening in the planet's core. Allan and Tech Jacket fend off the assault while Mark, Nolan, and Thetis move as fast as possible through the planet's core. As they fly through the center of the planet, they destroy the entire planet. The trio are grabbed by Viltrumites and pummeled. The planet's destruction causes a shockwave that knocks almost everyone unconscious. Thetis regains consciousness and tells the Viltrumites that they have nowhere to run anymore. Thragg is enraged. He calls Thetis a traitor for dooming the Viltrum Empire. Thetis offers the Viltrum Empire to surrender so they don't go extinct. But Thragg rushes in and decapitates him, knocking back Nolan and Allan in the process. Thragg holds Thetis's head and crushes it in front of everyone. He declares Argal, deceased Emperor of Viltrum, finally avenged, with Battle Beast defeated and Mark crying over his brother. Allan and Nolan ready themselves for Thragg as he tells them they are all next. Thragg rushes into Mark and fights him. Mark, fueled with anger over his brother, punches him, but it still has no effect on him. He continues to pummel Mark about how he destroyed their home. He starts crushing Mark's head, with Mark already bleeding from his eyes. Nolan rushes in just in time to save his son. Thragg tells Nolan that Thetis killed Argal, which is why the Viltrumites erased the weak from their planet. Nolan reveals that he knew it and he feels that the Viltrumites deserve extinction. Thragg headbutts him. Battle Beast rushes towards him, but Thragg tosses him aside, calling him a nuisance. Anissa and Craig pummel Allan, managing to break his arm. Anissa punches Allan but is distracted by Space Racer killing a Viltrumite. Space Racer grabs Allan and tells Allan that the destruction of Viltrum will give them time to recover, but this battle is already lost. Space Racer uses his hovercycle to grab Tech Jacket and the trio leaves Mark and Nolan to fend for themselves. Thragg readies to kill Mark and Nolan. Mark asks how do they beat him and Nolan says that they can't. Nolan reveals that in order to be named the Grand Regent, he was trained from birth to be the strongest Viltrumite in all manners of combat. Thragg grabs the duo's necks and Nolan reveals that he loves Mark, despite what he said during their battle. Thragg calls him pathetic. Nolan kicks Thragg's hand so that Mark can escape. Mark attempts to escape, but Thragg easily catches up to him. He grabs Mark's and smashes his fist into Mark's face. Nolan catches up to them and Thragg impales him at a superhuman speed, disemboweling Nolan. Thragg grabs Mark and Craig asks why is Thragg hesitating. Thragg decides to let them live and tells him to call the ship. Craig argues that they need Viltrumites loyal to them and attempt to kill them. Thragg catches his punches and tell him that they need them if they are to survive. The Viltrumite take their warship and leave them to die. Captain Piquel arrives with a ship and learns that they are alive. 2 weeks later, Mark wakes up from his coma. Allan goes to visit him. Mark asks him what he's wearing and he says that his arm was broken in the battle, but he meant the gown. Allan reveals that he was made the leader of the coalition of planets after Thetis' death. He laughs and tells him that he is supposed to address him as Great Allan from now on. He asks where his father is and Allan reveals that he woke up a few days earlier, revealing that Nolan heals faster than Mark does. Mark sees his brother in a stasis pod with a new cybernetic arm and jaw. Nolan reveals the Viltrumite brain can survive an extended period of time without oxygen. Zack arrives to tell Allan that there is no sign of the Viltrumites. Allan smiles and tells Mark about it. Mark begins to panic. Mark goes on to say that Thragg wouldn't have let him and his father live if he didn't want them to hurt. He understands now that Thragg is gone for Earth. But that is a story for another time. Thanks for watching. Subscribe and see you next time.